Hello my friends and welcome back to KrossUSA channel. Winter's coming, and that means it's time to talk firewood. From the forests of Europe to your backyard, we're diving into 8 different ways the pros process wood for heating. From classic chainsaws to hydraulic powerhouses. Whether you heat with wood or just appreciate good machinery at work, you're gonna love this. There's something deeply satisfying about watching skilled hands prepare for winter the old-fashioned way, and that's exactly what we're witnessing here at Motel 6 in Oorschot. As the days grow shorter and that familiar chill settles into the air, the hardworking crew here knows that winter waits for no one. They're out here doing what folks have done for generations, harvesting timber that'll keep families warm when the mercury drops. Now, if you've ever heated your home with wood, you know there's a rhythm to this work that goes back centuries. What we're seeing isn't just tree cutting, it's a carefully orchestrated operation that balances efficiency with forest management. The crew at Oorschot understands that sustainable harvesting means selecting the right trees, often those that are overcrowded, diseased, or have reached their prime cutting age. Watch how the lead sawyer approaches each tree. He's not just eyeing it up, he's reading it like a book. That slight lean, the wind direction, the nearby trees, every factor matters. This is where experience shines. The notch cut, or what old-timers call the face cut, gets placed on the side where they want the tree to fall. It's typically cut at about a 45-degree angle, creating a wedge that guides the tree's descent. Then comes the back cut, made on the opposite side, slightly higher than the notch. That thin strip of wood left between the cuts, that's the hinge, and it's what keeps the fall controlled and predictable. NTHE chainsaws they're using are purpose-built for this work. Professional-grade machines with engine displacements around 60 to 90 cubic centimeters. Powerful enough to bite through hardwood, but balanced enough for all-day use. These aren't your weekend homeowner saws. Bar lengths here run from 18 to 24 inches, matched perfectly to the diameter of the trees they're taking down. Once a tree is down, the limbing process begins. This is where skill really shows. Each branch needs to be removed cleanly, cutting close to the trunk but not so close that you're fighting the compression forces in the wood. The crew works methodically, moving from the base toward the crown, always positioning themselves on the opposite side of the trunk from where they're cutting, a safety practice that saved countless loggers' lives over the years. Then comes the bucking, cutting the trunk into manageable lengths. Here at Oorschot, they're cutting to lengths that'll work with their splitting equipment and fit into standard fireplaces and wood stoves. Usually, that means 16 to 18-inch sections, though some folks prefer 20 or 24 inches depending on their setup. What's particularly impressive is how they've organized the staging area. As sections are cut, they're sorted by diameter and species: oak, beech, and ash. The premium firewood species in this region get separated from the softwoods. Each has its burning characteristics and seasoning requirements, something that mattered just as much to your grandfather as it does today. NTHE whole operation is a beautiful example of working smarter, not harder. Modern equipment, combined with time-tested techniques, preparing fuel that'll burn clean and hot in hearths across the region. It's honest work that connects us directly to the land, and reminds us that sometimes the old ways, heating with wood, planning ahead for winter, working with nature's rhythms, still make the most sense. Here's where German engineering meets backyard practicality. The Dorntech 21-ton splitter you're watching is a serious piece of kit that brings industrial-grade splitting power to operations that might not have room for the big rigs. NNBUT. What really sets this machine apart is that cable winch system. See how the operator doesn't need to bend and lift those heavy rounds? The winch does the heavy lifting, literally. You hook the cable around your log, hit the switch, and watch it roll right up onto the splitting bed. NNTHE hydraulic ram extends with smooth, controlled force, driving the wedge through the wood fiber. Notice how it doesn't struggle or stall. That's proper hydraulic pressure and flow working in harmony. The cycle time runs around 10 to 15 seconds from extension to retraction, which means you're splitting a lot of wood in a day's work without rushing or straining. NNTHE beam design is robust, built to handle years of punishment. That splitting wedge is positioned at the perfect height for comfortable loading and unloading, reducing operator fatigue. This is equipment designed by folks who actually split wood for a living, not just engineers at a drawing board. Now, this is what I call practical ingenuity. A screw-type splitter powered directly off that classic Ursus C330 tractor. For those who remember, Ursus tractors were the workhorses of Eastern European agriculture, built tough as nails in Poland from the 1940s right through the end of the Cold War. That C330 model you're looking at became legendary for its reliability and simple, fixable design. NTHE Power Takeoff, or PTO system, is one of farming's most brilliant inventions. That spinning shaft at the rear of the tractor delivers rotational power directly from the engine to whatever implement you've attached. In this case, it's turning that wicked-looking splitting screw at around 500 to 600 RPM. Here's how this beauty works. Instead of using hydraulic force like conventional splitters, this design uses a tapered screw thread, similar to what you'd see on a wood screw, just massively scaled up. When you press the log against that spinning cone, the threads bite into the wood and pull themselves in. As the screw drives deeper, the increasing diameter forces the wood fibers apart from the inside out. It's like the wood is splitting itself. Now watch the operator's technique. He's not forcing anything, just guiding the log and letting the screw do its job. The splitting happens fast and clean, with less effort than you'd expend on a hydraulic splitter. The twisted grain in that piece of oak didn't stand a chance. There's beauty in this mechanical simplicity. No hydraulic pumps to maintain, no oil to change, no cylinders to rebuild. Just a hardened steel screw, a gearbox, and the PTO shaft. Your granddad would have appreciated equipment like this. Straightforward, repairable, and effective. NTHE Ursus provides plenty of torque even at low RPMs, which means this setup can handle some seriously tough wood. That diesel engine just chugs along, delivering consistent power without breaking a sweat. You can run this all day on a tank of fuel, splitting cord after cord while that old tractor purrs like it was born for this work. Safety-wise, notice how the operator maintains control and keeps his hands well clear of the screw. These machines demand respect. That spinning cone is powerful and unforgiving, but used properly, they're incredibly efficient tools that turn tough splitting jobs into smooth, productive work. Welcome to the heart of traditional timber processing at the Turd Sawmill in Poland. This is where raw logs transform into the dimensional lumber that heats homes and builds futures. Sawmills like this one represent a bridge between old-world craftsmanship and modern efficiency. Watch how those logs move through the processing line. First comes the debarking station, where rotating heads strip away the outer bark. This step is crucial. Bark contains dirt, stones, and grit that would dull saw blades in minutes. Once cleaned, the logs move on to the main carriage, a massive sliding platform that holds the logs steady while the head saw does its work. NTHAT bandsaw blade you're seeing is a marvel of metallurgy, a continuous loop of spring steel with precisely set teeth, running at speeds around 3,000 feet per minute. Each pass removes a slab, and the log gets rotated and repositioned to maximize yield. NTHE's smell of fresh-cut pine and oak fills the air, that distinct sawmill aroma that old-timers never forget. These operations have sustained communities for generations, providing the raw material for everything from home construction to furniture making. In winter, the slabs and offcuts become premium firewood, with nothing going to waste. It's sustainable forestry in action, where every part of the tree finds purpose. Now here's versatility meets power. The Bobcat 743 fitted with a log splitter attachment. If you've been around construction or property maintenance over the past few decades, you know Bobcat's reputation. With a 30 horsepower Kubota diesel engine and that legendary skid steer maneuverability, it could tackle just about any job you threw at it. Here's what makes this setup special. The Bobcat's hydraulic pump is already part of the machine, so the attachment simply taps into that existing power source through quick disconnect couplers. The operator controls the splitting ram with the same auxiliary hydraulic levers used for other attachments. It's plug-and-play efficiency that lets you switch from moving logs to splitting them in under 5 minutes. Watch the cycle in action. The operator positions a round on the splitter bed using the Bobcat's bucket, then activates the hydraulic ram. The wedge drives forward with steady, unstoppable force. Unlike manual splitters where you're fighting each piece, this setup maintains consistent pressure regardless of wood density or grain complexity. That knotty piece of elm that would have taken 15 minutes with a maul, done in 15 seconds. NTHE, beauty of this system is in its productivity. One person can handle the entire operation, moving, positioning, splitting, and clearing away the finished pieces. No backbreaking lifting, no struggling with stuck hydraulic splitters, no downtime between rounds. Just smooth, continuous workflow that can process several cords of wood in a day. NTHE durability factor can't be overlooked either. These attachments are built from heavy plate steel, designed to withstand years of impact and pressure. Minimal moving parts mean less maintenance and fewer failure points. Sometimes the best tools are the simplest ones, and the Check & Rex manual log splitter proves that point beautifully. What you're looking at is elegant mechanical engineering. No engine, no hydraulics, no electricity, just leverage, physics, and smart design working together to make splitting wood almost effortless. NTHE, heart of this machine is its lever-operated rack and pinion mechanism. That long handle the operator is working acts as a force multiplier, translating human effort into tons of splitting pressure. Watch the sequence carefully. The operator places a round on the base plate, positions it against the backstop, then begins pumping that handle. Each stroke advances the splitting wedge incrementally, maybe an inch or two at a time. NTHE splitting wedge itself is a work of hardened steel, shaped to encourage the wood to break along its natural grain lines. That's crucial. You're not trying to cut through the fibers, you're persuading them to separate. The wedge angle is typically around 30 degrees, sharp enough to penetrate, but blunt enough to force the wood apart rather than binding up. What I particularly appreciate about the Check & Rex design is how it accommodates different log sizes. That adjustable backstop slides along the base to handle everything from small rounds to chunks 2 feet long. This machine shines in situations where you need quiet operation, have no access to power, or simply prefer working at your own pace without the noise and fumes of an engine. It's self-sufficient technology that never needs fuel, never breaks down from neglect, and will outlast most of us if properly maintained. The Minarix CCVHS 201 represents European precision in firewood processing equipment, and watching it work is like seeing a well-choreographed dance between engineering and practicality. Let's talk about why the vertical design matters. Unlike horizontal splitters where you're lifting heavy rounds onto a splitting bed, vertical models let you roll or tip logs directly into position with minimal effort. That's a game changer when you're processing wood all day. Your back, knees, and shoulders will thank you by day's end. The split pieces fall away naturally, either dropping into a collection area or onto a conveyor system that moves them aside automatically. NTHE hydraulic system at the heart of this machine is where Minarix engineering expertise really shows. That hydraulic pump, driven by either an electric motor or gasoline engine depending on the model, generates oil pressure that's then directed through control valves to the splitting cylinder. And watch the splitting cycle. The operator uses a two-hand control system, a safety feature that ensures both hands are on the controls, well away from the splitting zone. When activated, the hydraulic ram extends smoothly, driving the log upward against a fixed splitting wedge. The wedge design is particularly clever. It's not just a simple V shape. That means you're getting 4 pieces per cycle, instead of having to resplit halves. NTHE force rating on this machine is substantial, around 20 tons of splitting pressure. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to parking a fully loaded semi-truck on top of your log. There's no piece of firewood that can withstand that kind of pressure. Even the toughest stringy elm or twisted hickory eventually surrenders and splits clean. End cycle time runs around 12 to 15 seconds from start to finish, including the return stroke. That might not sound impressive compared to some faster machines, but here's the thing. This is sustainable speed. Fast cycle times often mean compromising on force or reliability. Minarix chose power and longevity over raw speed. And that's a trade-off that makes sense for anyone processing wood by the cord rather than by the stick. NTHE frame construction deserves mention too. This isn't lightweight equipment. The main beam and support structure are fabricated from heavy-gauge steel, probably 3/8 inch plate or thicker in the critical stress areas. That mass provides stability during operation and ensures the machine can handle thousands of splitting cycles without developing the wobbles or cracks you'd see in lighter designs. One feature that really stands out is the log cradle and stabilization system. Those guides on either side keep rounds from rolling or shifting during the splitting process. It's a simple touch, but it prevents jams and missed splits that would otherwise slow down production. The attention to these practical details shows this machine was designed by people who actually split wood, not just engineers who ran computer simulations. NFOR. Anyone serious about wood heat? A machine like the Minarek represents the sweet spot between manual labor and industrial automation. It's powerful enough to handle your entire winter's wood supply, reliable enough to last decades, but still sized and priced for individual ownership. This is the kind of equipment that pays for itself in saved chiropractor bills and gained productivity, while keeping you connected to the satisfying work of putting up your own heat. Here's where American ingenuity meets necessity. A custom-built splitter using an Oregon chainsaw as the power source. For those who've been around outdoor power equipment, Oregon is a name you trust. NTHE setup is straightforward but effective. The chainsaw engine drives a hydraulic pump through a belt or direct drive system. That pump generates the hydraulic pressure needed to operate a splitting cylinder and wedge assembly. It's essentially building a complete hydraulic splitter system using readily available components and a power source that many folks already own. What makes this approach appealing is the flexibility. Most homeowners already have a chainsaw. Rather than letting it sit idle between cutting seasons, this conversion gives it year-round utility. The hydraulic components, pump, cylinder, hoses, and control valve, can be sourced from farm supply stores or hydraulic specialty shops, often at reasonable prices compared to buying a complete factory-built splitter. NTHE splitting force depends on the cylinder size and hydraulic pressure, but typical setups generate 8 to 12 tons of force, plenty for most firewood applications. You're not going to tackle massive stumps with this rig, but for standard 16 to 20 inch rounds of oak, maple, or ash, it handles the job admirably.